Hello everyone, it's Mary Polanco here today with you on the Scrapbook.com channel. I am so excited to be bringing you some holiday cheer and hopefully some inspiration. I had a blast just getting down to it. I've been putting off my holiday cards for a while, so I thought it was going to be just such a good time to pull out all these supplies and get to work. So I'm going to show you today a bunch of tips that I used making multiple cards. The first thing that I will share is there's two ways that you can get your cardstock ready. I don't like to cut my cardstock for a lot of cards. Like if I'm making 100 cards, I don't like to cut those separate. I like to get it done, sit down, put a movie on. Maybe it's a holiday movie that you love. I've been binge watching cheesy movies on Netflix. It's been fantastic. But I pulled out my guillotine trimmer from Tonic, which is a phenomenal trimmer, and I cut a bunch all at once. Then I'm going to take out my score buddy and I'm going to score them all at once. So these are A2 size cards, which means when they're folded, they're 5.5 by 4.25, top folding. So I like to do that in assembly order. And the reason that I feel this is the best way for me to do it is because it gets the boring stuff out of the way. I don't want to sit here and do this forever. And I certainly, once I've done 20, I don't want to have to come back and do, 80 more. That's just, I don't want to live that life. I want to craft. So I then, after that, go through and I score them, okay? Or you can get from Scrapbook.com these blank note cards. And these blank note cards are fantastic because the work is done for you. So if you don't want to do that first part, this is definitely an option for some good quality cardstock. You can just open this right up and they're already scored. So what I did was I grabbed these out and I placed them into my MISTI. This is the regular size MISTI and it fits this size panel. And you can see, I don't know if you can see the score line on the screen right there, but I pretty much have an idea of where I want my card to go. I'm going to pull out this Merry and Bright Sentiments, the Scrapbook.com exclusive stamp set for the holidays. And I am pretty much going to stick with this one sentiment for all of my holiday cards. Not because I'm lazy, but because it's just really relevant right now. So here you can see I chose miles apart, but together at heart this holiday season because I am not seeing anyone over the holiday season. And not that it's totally new or kind of world for me. That has happened quite a few times in my life. However, this one, it's the first time I've lived this close to home and I still can't go. So there's that. So I'm going to be sending all my love through this sentiment. Okay, so I did a little bit of an assembly there, and now we're going to move into tip number 2. Tip number 2 for your holiday card making is to make simple backgrounds. You don't have to shy away completely from the backgrounds, even if you're making a lot of cards. Now, I don't do this amount of ink blending on all my cards, but what I did do to keep it simple was I stayed with the same blender tool and the same color ink. So you can see here the first panel that I'm making, I'm getting a really beautiful blend. I'm using Bristol Smooth cardstock and these Scrapbook.com blender tools, which have the beveled edges around them, so they're like rounded tools, and they're fantastic. I do like a blender brush. I think those are really great and you get a really soft, beautiful blend, but these really lay down the color. So I am going to get that more of an ombre, if you will, sort of like not an ombre, a faded look, so darker on the top and then fading it down. Now you can spritz some water on this and get a beautiful result. I decided to leave it alone, which was shocking for me because I can't leave well enough alone. But I am going to then show you a couple of these other backgrounds because like I said, I don't want to sit there and ink blend 50 cards. I just can't do that either because my tricep muscle just won't be able to handle that. But what I can do is pull out a bunch of stencils in my stash that need some love and attention and just put some really quick ink blending over them. And like I said, with these blender tools, they work beautifully, so they work really quickly and I don't have to do much. There's not a lot of effort at all. So I'm going to get a couple more backgrounds done here. There is one background I spent a little bit more time on, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I have leftover ink, and it is my philosophy that you do not waste oxide ink. So I'm going to add pumice stone and some blueprint sketch, and I'm going to spritz it with this Hero Arts iridescent white shimmer spray. Now, I didn't know what I was going to get. I thought maybe it would make it a little bit too mixed with the white, but then I added some water just so I can get a little bit more of that liquid moving, and I was pleased as punch. It came out so pretty, and I'm going to show you, actually the camera does pick up a little bit of that, well, a lot on the camera, a lot in real life, a little bit on the camera, of that iridescent look. And once it dried, it became even better. So that is definitely a tip in there. Use some shimmer powder that you have, some shimmer spray, some perfect pearls, whatever you got, throw it in there and just add a little extra oomph to your cards. So here I'm going to take out this Scrapbook.com holiday stamp set, and from it I'm going to pick out the lights. So I'm going to use the string of lights and the string of what I presume is sort of like a tinsel, and I'm going to actually do that a little bit differently than just stamping. So the first thing I'm going to use is some alcohol marker friendly ink just to get this down, and I'm cleaning that off with my picket fence scrubby there. And so I'm just going to continue because I wanted to use the MISTI for placement instead of just a regular acrylic block, just in case I didn't ink it up well enough. And so I'm going to continue that process until I get all the strings of lights that I want. This background was actually simple because I didn't spend a lot of time on the whites of the background. It's more just on coloring in those little lights, and I used a 2-color blend, which I'm not even sure there was enough space for, but I tried to make it work. I'm going to go in here with the garland type of stamp, and I'm going to stamp it in some Scrapbook.com embossing ink, and then I'm going to pour some silver embossing powder over it because I want to give that garland tinsel-y look to my card. So I think that's really fun. I am definitely a silver type of holiday decorator. My tree is teal, silver, white, and it pretty much doesn't deviate from those 3 colors. So I'm just drawn to it. That's not the family tree. The family tree is much more of a traditional colors of green, red, gold, things like that. But so yeah, I like this color palette here. It's, I guess you can consider non-traditional, sort of like the pastel colors with the silver. And so I'm gonna keep that theme throughout all of these cards with the coloring of my images and my backgrounds. I do like to have a little bit more of a border behind my panels. So I'm cutting each of these backgrounds down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. And that's going to give me a nice 1/4 inch border around the panel. So I like that. It's a good look. So we're going to just trim that down. Now that's a different guillotine trimmer. In case you are wondering, I like that one as well. So if you're not in the market for the big one, that 8.5 one's awesome. So here I took my long scissors, and if you are struggling with making your own hillside type shape, maybe try longer scissors. It seems to be a little bit easier because you have a smoother motion with the longer ones than the choppy motion with the smaller ones. So that's another tip for you. Okay, here I cut where the nose is from my little snowman. Now this is a honeybee set, and it is stinking cute. This whole set is just adorable. So I'll put a picture of the whole stamp set here up on the screen so you can see, because it's just, cute is an understatement. But I'm going to add this little snow hat. Now I did, like I said, cut around the nose so that I can put that hat and it's not kind of sticking all the way up on its head. So I could just nestle it in there. So look at your stamps. Look at how you want your images to be on your stamps, because even masking that would have been very tricky, because you want the nose in front of the hat, but the hat in front of the back of the head. So very tricky, but if you take a look at it and just kind of see what you can cut to alter, try that. So here I'm going to use some dimension. My next tip is dimension is life. Dimension brings these cards just from ordinary to extraordinary. And I'm going to show you a couple ways that I use dimension on here. Now, the traditional way of what we always do is just pop up your images, pop up your panels, and it adds that extra element of the card. It brings it from just something you can see in a store to something really cool. This other way is to use a wobble. So what I did was I cut out a separate head for my snowman, and I am going to just place that right on top here. I'm using one of those wobblers, and we are going to have this little head, almost like a bobblehead. So that's another thing. So just get creative with your dimension. It doesn't have to be the same thing that we're always doing. Just be in the moment with your stuff. So I put his little hat on, and now we're going to wiggle him, and you got to see that in slow motion. So we're going to go back, and there he is. The only thing I would change about that is I would cut his head right to the black line. So that's the only thing I would change about that. So if you decide to do something like that, it would probably look a little bit cleaner. I'm also going to wobble this hat. So here I'm back to this panel here, and I'm keeping this so super simple. This is one of the simplest cards I've ever made, and I am here for it because, like I said, when you're making multiples, you just need a couple easy ones. But it's not simple to the recipient because the hat wobbles. It's really cool. This is this beautiful die from Scrapbook.com. This is the Winter Wishes die, and it just is a staple. It's a phenomenal die. You can actually cut off the banner on the bottom if you want, just to make a snowflake. There's a lot you can do with it, but I decided to add a little snowman's hat just to bring classy meets whimsical into this card right here. So I thought that was really cute. So there's that card, and then we're going to move on to the next background. Again, we have a very simple background. Now, I chose blue snowflakes on a white background. If you want to have a blue piece of cardstock and use that stencil with some white ink, do some white embossing, some clear embossing powder, clear embossing ink, and then white powder, you can do that. I'm back to my ink blended background, and I'm going to take some of this Scrapbook.com Smart Glue. This glue is awesome. You don't have to squeeze very hard. It will come out very simply. So those of you that have issues with grip, this is a great choice. But another cool thing, you're probably like, why are you putting glue all over that front panel? I will show you under the last tip of this video. So we'll come back to that. I'm going to leave you hanging. Here I'm going to show you my next tip, which is sentiments for holiday card making. So I have all of these fantastic sets of just any sentiment you can imagine. I mean, the ugly sweater. Where else are you going to get a sentiment that says ugly sweater? It's just adorable. So it's great for journaling. It's great for scrapbooking. You can see all of these wonderful sentiments here. This one obviously got loved already because it's stained. Have no fear, that does not ruin the stamps. It just makes it shown that they've been used. Here I have my sticker books. These sticker books are awesome. They are from Scrapbook.com as well, and so you have a lot of cute little sentiments on the front, and then lots and lots of letters. So if you don't want to die cut, if you don't want to stamp, you just pull out the sticker book and it does all the work for you. And you can personalize all of your stuff. With the envelopes, you can make really cool things. And then I have some alphabet dies and some sentiment dies that I'm going to be using as well. Here I had the other one I showed you already, but then also the Merry Sentiments. And I'm going to do something fun with the Merry Sentiments as well. Okay, so let's get into my tip for making sentiments. Now, if you're doing holiday cards, it is probably fastest if you do all of your sentiments at once. Now, you don't have to do them all the same, but I would recommend getting them all positioned. Here I'm taking some Scrapbook.com tape runner, and I did not feel like taking all of those sentiments off of the plastic, so I just adhered the plastic to my MISTI. And then I can just do it all at once. I am definitely going to be using my anti-static powder bag like crazy here, and I am just brushing that all over to make sure I get good coverage because these are really small words and I don't want any smudging. And so once I do that, I take my Scrapbook.com embossing ink, which is a juicy. I thought for sure I was going to have to stamp this a few times. This was a one pass. You can always stamp it twice just for extra security, but I didn't need to, so that was great. But like I said, I'm doing white embossing on black cardstock, but you certainly can do this with any color ink. You can pull out white cardstock and do all red ink, or switch it up throughout the panel there and do different colors. So, but the point here is it's going to be awesome to have all of these done and off to the side, so that when you are ready to assemble your cards, you're going to be able to just pull it out and go. I didn't even plan these cards when I was doing them. I just knew I wanted to make a bunch. And so I'm only showing you in this video 6 or 7 of them. But it was just great because all my sentiments are essentially going to be surrounded by or in the arena of this theme. So I'm going to heat set all of that. Not going to let you sit here and watch literal paint dry. So I'm going to speed that up. But once I get that all dried, then I recommend a microfiber cloth and look at how well that cleans right up. All right, so we have those done. Now we're just going to take out our trimmer, our paper trimmer, and I am just going to cut. Now, because I kept right on their plastic, they were already lined up perfectly. I couldn't have lined them up that perfect if I pulled them off. So it was best that I just kept them on there. And then because this trimmer's so good, I'm just going to keep sliding it through. The bottom of this trimmer and the top of the trimmer have a lip that will hold your cardstock, which is awesome, so it doesn't go flying everywhere. With this set, I'm actually going to do bubble cutting with them. So what that means is I am cutting around the letters of the sentiment, and that adds such a wonderful element to the cards. This is something I've been doing for a while, and you have to try it. It's very forgiving, it's a fun technique, and it really does pop your sentiment off of the page instead of just a regular square or rectangle. Okay, so you saw some of those dies. I'm going to be pulling out this classic font from Scrapbook.com, and I am going to cut a few words out of some glitter cardstock. So I'm going to cut out snow, joy, merry, and you'll see me do that. I'm taking this mint tape, which I have had many arguments with tape that supposedly did not ruin my projects when I put them through my die cutting machine. And this is the only one that has allowed me to win the argument. Because it does not ruin your cardstock. So that is a treat. I'm also, if you notice here, using this magic mat. So this magic mat is new from Scrapbook.com, and it is a replacement for one of your die cutting plates. And it will not warp, and it's self-healing, so you'll be able to use it so much longer than your die cutting plates. So I'm really excited to try that out. Cuts like butter. Very cool. Okay, so here's some of the words that I die cut off screen, and then I'm going to take this envelope here and I'm just going to store them in. All my holiday sentiments are just going to be stored in there. And this is another great idea if you're just not feeling in a very good mood to craft with ideas. Just make sentiments. Make sentiments, die cut words, throw them in an envelope. That's what I got to do sometimes to get my mojo back. All right, so now let's start putting our sentiments onto our cards. You want to have fun with your sentiments. Okay, so you saw in the first one, I put 3 on, which I don't hardly ever put more than 1 sentiment unless it's a sub-sentiment. But I said, you know what? It's the holidays. I'm feeling it. Let's do it. So I put that on. Now, my snow die here, I just put a little wonky. I needed to make it fit, but I also thought that added some really fun interest. As you can see, I'm having these little snowmen. Some of them are holding some of the sentiments in their hands, which was just again, playing. I'm having a good time. This one right here, I'm going to put merry and bright. I held that a little longer because it was over the embossing powder, but this smart glue works amazing, so that was easy. Here, he's holding a little wonderland, got some presents, super cute. And then I'm going to put jingle all the way right there, where a banner or a sentiment just belongs. So it's right there on that little tag there at the bottom of that snowflake. All right, so here we're back to the crazy lady putting glue on the front of the panel. Well, one of the really cool aspects of this Scrapbook.com exclusive smart glue is that it's tacky. And I don't mean tacky like socks with sandals. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about sticky after it dries. So if you wear socks with sandals, I'm not hating. It's totally fine. Do you? But I am going to put here my foil that I have, which is this awesome iridescent foil. And I am just going to lay it down and then pull it up. And of course, I did this in slow-mo for you because, you know, it's magic. You just have to see it in slow motion. But I'm going to go over the entire panel of wherever I put that glue to dry. And it's just going to come right up, and the foil is going to stick right to it. And it's not only is it beautiful and just a wonderful touch, but it's really fun too. So I'm a little close there with the thing. So let's zoom that out a little bit so you can see. But yeah, it's just such a wonderful addition. All right, so now we are on to the stage of my final tip, which is embellish, embellish, embellish. And you can save the embellishing on all your cards, even if they are different, to the very end. You can put all your cards to the side as you're making them, and then at the very end, come back and just add those extra little touches. And if you break up your holiday cards in this way that I showed you in this video, it could actually be less daunting. Because each day when you sit down to add a little bit more to your cards or do the next step, you're not bored with it. It's fresh, it's new, and so that's a lot of fun. On these first two cards, I put some sticky ink, and then I put some Hero Arts Puff White embossing powder, which is magical, a must-have for the holidays. It's just awesome. You can also use it for the caps on waves of the ocean. You can use it for poodle's fur. You can use it for beer foam. There's just a ton of things that you could do with that stuff. It's great. But I'm going to go with my trusty white gel pen to add a couple of the highlights to my images, just to add a little bit of something there. And my Scrapbook.com sparkle pen is going to add just that beautiful add of shimmer to any of those things. I'm also going to pull out my stickles. I'm a huge fan of stickles during the holidays. I think, again, just brings those cards from ordinary to extraordinary, and they're just a lot of fun. And who doesn't love a frosty that looks frosty with frosty stickles or frost lace? I don't remember what it's called. It'll be linked below. So here I am going to lastly, I believe this is lastly, because like I said before, I don't really leave well enough alone. But lastly, I went in with some Nouveau Glaze and just added a bunch of shine to those ornaments and the lights. That is what I have for you today. I'm so glad that you stopped by and hung out with me while I made a bunch of my holiday cards. I hope that these tips were useful and that they inspired you to just have fun. That really is what it's all about. And I think if there's one thing that we all need right now, it's a little bit of fun in our lives. If you're interested in seeing anything that I used in the video up close, head over to Scrapbook.com and check it out. And you can get there by clicking any of the links below in the description box. Thank you all again so much. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. Bye-bye.